There it is, the magic.
Air sure looks like to me. Okay. Um, all right, so we'll dive right into the AI, I guess. You get going?
Sure.
Um, just looking at this, so this is the same one you linked to in the packet, the first,
Yeah.
first one.
Um,
Okay, it's just
this is-
it just doesn't look like a link, so make sure it's good. Okay.
No, this is the school board.
The New Hampshire School Board one.
Yeah.
It's linked. The
So-
others.
Okay, well, I guess, so this is a new policy that we're considering implementing. And we talked last time about the fact that, that Zach is developing a committee, or I don't know if it's Zach or you.
No, it's
Who's bringing
Zach is
together
talking about that, yeah.
to look into AI, but that we felt like as a policy committee that we should have some sort of policy in place at the beginning of the year, so we can include that in the student handbook. Um, and so this seems like a good place to start. Do people have comments on that, on this one?
I feel like having this is better than having nothing, but it feels imprecise and imperfect to me. So I guess I wouldn't object to sort of getting this as a baseline and then bringing it back again.
Yeah.
Right, because I feel like we talked about a little bit in some of our other policies about the desire to have there be some consistency for kids. And this, as it's drafted, doesn't really address that. So like if it was our
For sure,
intention,
yeah.
for example, to have the elementary schools have a uniform policy across all the elementaries, it doesn't say that in here. Or for the high school, having something for the whole school, or at least the whole math department or whatever, like it doesn't say that. And that's a piece, I mean, I guess we could add that if you guys agree to that conceptually, we could find a place to stick those ideas. But to me, like this feels really, really squishy. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't really, like we already have a separate policy for the district to review tech. And in
Mhm.
theory, we're only supposed to use approved tech. So I don't think that this is adding a layer beyond what we
Yeah, I
have.
wondered about that piece.
So I think it's good that they're approving it. But like, I guess this is written, doesn't feel like it's really adding a lot of clarity. But what do you think, Patty? Because I guess,
Well, you've got sort of like two prongs here to this. You've got the fact that AI continues to iterate itself and change and develop new ways to be used and to be employed. So that, I think that's, you're going to continue to have squishiness around that. But I think to have some baseline, what can teachers do with it? What can administrators do with it? What can students do with it? And for lack of a better phrase, I guess, test drive it for a year to see what is happening, how it's used, and if there's anything that needs to be tightened up. I think about like consequences at the high school level, for instance, if you're using ChatGPT to write the report on, Pride and Prejudice, like there's different ways around that in the handbook, but I think if we give guardrails, maybe is what this policy will do, and then you fill in specifics after we've tried it. And once the working group has had a chance to look at it and provide information about what they've discovered and what they've researched. It's tricky because we right now have nothing.
Right.
And in situations where we might think it's not being used appropriately, I mean, there was an article in a journal I read probably about a month ago now that talked about 3 ethical uses of AI and 1 that's unethical. And this sort of mirrors that, but further conversations about that when you're generating content are important.
do you think it would be too operationally difficult to add to this at this point, just to say we want a building level policy, or we want there to be consistency across subject areas at the high school? Like, would that be creating too much of a mess, right?
I think what we have in here for how students can use that is giving that sort of broad stroke. And then I think what can happen as a result of this, and as we continue to work through curriculum development and things like that, is we can work on expectations by department for use. So generative AI in the art class might be helpful to get you some ideas to get going with something. But you, again, you don't want to have it write the whole speech for you or write the whole report, like
Right.
some loose expectations. But I think we haven't spent enough time as professionals discussing that.
Right.
So if we're going to respond to something, it might be easier than for us to, and I'm speaking us as educators, to just sort of develop it out of nothing.
I do, I mean, it at least calls for policy to be written, right? But, and reviewed annually, which I thought was a good thing. So I guess that's, if we were to pass this, it would require.
The plan,
It,
plan,
right,
yeah.
and create that impetus for the working group to develop something.
Would we add maybe into the guidelines for that plan? That it would be like ultimately getting us to school level or subject matter?
So I think you can put that in G. Yep.
Would it go in G or J? Like, I'm just looking at, if we're having Zach create the plan, then it's not impacting,
No, under J,
oh, sorry.
there's a
Sorry.
G other.
Oh, perfect, yep. So, so the last page,
Yeah.
where it says, I'm sorry, I couldn't figure out which G we're
To be,
talking
to be,
about.
to be developmentally and content appropriate, I guess you could say.
No, that's not it. I want like it to be consistent. Cause like with homework and attendance, with everything else, particularly at the high school, it's like algebra teacher over here does this and algebra teacher over there does that.
That's where it be content specific, so that it would be, the math class would, or the math department would be
Right.
doing it in a certain way. At the high school level, math is gonna look different than elementary.
No, I agree, but
Right.
could the AI plan be built like school-wide for elementary and middle school and subject specific at high school? Would that be fair?
That makes sense, I think.
Well, is that what B says?
No.
I think there is a bit of a difference between being age appropriate and
Yeah.
being consistent across the building. That's what you're looking.
That
for.
is exactly right. So if we just start from the beginning, and not to say what it has to be, but that once they meet and all the elementary principals agree, this is how we're gonna use AI in elementary.
Well, what if you just put it right in that first paragraph? Superintendent shall develop and maintain a generative AI use plan that operationalizes this policy and provides clear, consistent guidance for implementation, or clear guidance for consistent implementation across the district.
Now, I wanted to say, I mean, unless people don't
Well,
agree
that
with
would
me,
I'd be happy
that
to
wouldn't
have that.
hurt, but I'm looking for, it will be the same at all three elementaries. It will be consistent for all the classes in the middles, like at the middle school.
Well, you could just add that as one of your bullets. You would just add, provides clear guidance and consistent implementation. So you want to add the word consistent implementation right to where you put it, Patty, in the,
Right, in that.
that very first sentence. And then you would just go to the other, where you had the G is consistent practices will be implemented across elementary schools and across grade levels in middle school and high school, across content subject.
I think if in
It's
middle
hard to-
school operationally, like they work in teams, so it would be weird for kids if, you know, I'm on Expo 7 in math and science. And so like, I think content areas in middle school would be weird
Okay.
because they, like, would they have a different policy in every single class in sixth grade?
I'm just thinking if
So
you
it
mentioned.
pretty much has to be by subject.
Well, for sure at the high school by subject, I'm just wondering about the middle school.
Middle school is,
So at the element AI plan.
Well, consistent.
The elementary
If you,
level will be consistent across all grades. AI plan at the middle school will be consistent.
Wait,
I
all
would advise
grades?
against doing it by team at the middle school level because you're going to have.
No, I agree. I think they have to figure it out. But consistent either by subject area
Or grade level.
or grade level. And that leaves the administrative flexibility, period. And then AI plan. Plan at the high school. Well, can we just say at the middle school and the high school will be, we wouldn't want grade level at the high school because that doesn't work. AI plan at the high school will be consistent by subject.
Or department?
Okay, yeah, department makes sense.
But the first thing you said, I don't know if it quite works or doesn't cover everything. I think it was about, you said across grade level for.
Well, I think the elementary, it should just be the same
For what?
for the whole school. Like they
It
should be
shouldn't
really,
be, but I think we need to say all three schools. That's
District
what I'm
wide,
worried about.
across all three will be consistent.
district wide.
Yeah.
In grades K through 5. Or by grade, however you want to put it, but it's district wide instead of saying 3 schools because you
Yeah.
find yourself in a situation where you have 4 schools or 2 schools.
So
True.
AI plan at the elementary level will be consistent district wide in grades K through 5.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good.
AI plan at the middle school will be consistent either by subject area or grade level, period. AI plan at the high school will be consistent by department.
Yep.
Does that feel like,
Yeah.
so that way we're not telling them what to do, but we're just starting from the beginning, because that way we're just signaling that we'd like them to go there? Does that feel fair?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that we would add Paulette in the very last page. Into that G that's highlighted in yellow and just says other right now. I can absolutely do that.
Could we add,
Before I send it, do we want to
Yes.
change it though?
of course,
That's why I'm calling it. I'm so much.
in the middle school one, I think it should just say after whatever it says, say as determined by building administration or something. Or building principals.
We can do that. And I think all three of them are going to be determined by the working group
Mhm.
or by administration.
Well,
But for the middle school.
That's true. It's just be said this way or that way for that one. So.
Oh, so you want to just add.
Doesn't really matter.
I'm fine with adding it. So you wanted to say the AI plan at the middle school will be consistent either by subject area or grade level. You wanted to say as determined.
I don't think you.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, you know, okay, never mind.
You need it?
We don't know.
Is that okay, guys?
Yes.
Do you want me to read it one more time or are we?
Yeah, read one.
AI plan at the elementary level will be consistent district-wide in grades K through 5. AI plan at the middle school will be consistent either by subject area or grade level. AI plan at the high school will be consistent by department.
Great.
There, and then I'll just slap that in an email to you and then copy my friends. So that people are all, is there anything else for this? I don't know if there's anything else I would change right now. Like, there's a lot to me that feels like squishy. And maybe not ultimately the best thing to keep.
Well, and maybe
But-
that's where the plan is going to provide more structure, where this is just.
That's what I'm hoping.
Guys,
Yeah.
the plan is gonna give you
Right.
some bones.
And will the plan though be in place for the start of school? That's
Probably
the only
not.
other, huh?
Probably not, because this has to be passed.
Yes, no, I
Two
understand that.
grades. And then that says the superintendent shall, so then that would have them working on it next year, but at least
Yep.
you'd have in place the guardrails about.
And then the only other thing is with a lot of the other policies where we have like a plan. Like it's report back to the board and this
Mhm.
policy does have that at the end. It has a no later than, and then it's like word salad. So I just
We have
wondered
to
if you
shoot.
want to add anything there. Like it could be annually. I mean, ideally, I think we'd want to see the plan like by the end of the school year, maybe, so that it goes into the handbook. I don't know. But what do you think, Patty?
And any recommendation still requires a report to the school board each year. I would say by the end of each school year.
So by June,
Yeah,
so we could just add no later than
no later than
June.
June.
So does that seem?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then,
It's no later than June. It has to be done by May 30th. You want June or July?
You could say June 30th.
I could say June 30th, is that there?
Sure.
Okay, later than June 30th, okay, I'm just pasting that one thing in.
and number 4, the consequences, we don't have anything to add, right?
I'm not comfortable with there being like a really hard consequence until we have a really clear.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it feels like we don't want to enumerate how we're gonna punish them if we haven't enumerated.
We don't know what they're gonna do with it. Right.
Number 4, we talk.
I consequences. Yeah. It's just, right now, it's just other,
I
so
don't know what that other would be.
yeah, if we don't have something, we don't need to. Right. And did we agree we are gonna add the word consistent under J?
Yes,
Okay.
clear guidance for consistent implementation.
That's my question.
Okay.
And so I'm deleting I4.
Okay.
And just to note, there are some things in the city policy that are different than what we have in here, but I think we can probably with ask you look at that. For instance, they do have a thing about content verification, whereas if you're having to do some work and you signing off on it and it was generated by AI, you still need to check it and make sure it's accurate.
True.
But I don't know that we.
I don't know that we need that just yet.
I don't know that we need that yet either. I just wanted to point out that there are some things in here that are different in terms of than what we have in this policy.
Right.
You know what, I'd like to add to under the definitions, B, section B.
Hang on, one second.
Under generative AI tool, I think we should add Claude under the list of examples.
Sorry, what are we on?
Under generative AI tools, that definition.
Oh, I
See
see.
how there's a list of different tools?
Yeah.
Just because it's becoming more one of the.
You just seal their, like, they'll be out of business by the time we pass second reading now.
That's right.
So I'm just adding Claude.
Yeah.
That like,
CLAWED.
CLAUDE.
Yeah.
Cloud.
And we don't need a explanation, just add Claude.
oh, in this tool list.
They
Oh,
listed like
okay.
Gemini,
It's the
like-
ChatGPT, Google Gemini.
Oh, okay, got it.
Boy, I'm sorry, I don't know these things.
Well, it's just another one of the major
Must
ones that
remain-
people are using.
Yep.
Got it.
And this is a question, but I feel like this is again like a plan question, not the policy that I'm thinking about. For students who use AI for special ed, which is like a solid number of kids at this point, just to make sure that we're being clear with teachers about that piece.
And I think that the plan would call that out and then plus.
Right.
So you're also dealing with a different set of legal requirements if it's in an IEP.
Yes, but I just think like in terms of just not creating problems for those kids.
Well, I think that is JB.
Yeah.
Specific acceptable use, because if it's in somebody's IEP,
Yeah.
it's similar to what we're doing with the cell phones. I mean, some students have them if they need to check glucose because it's on the phone. So there's a lot of sort of carve outs that we've done with that, and we don't seem to be having major
Should it
issues.
be built in though somewhere? I thought it
There was a
should.
mention of it somewhere in here. I was more thinking about like if we're gonna talk about consequences and teachers are say running your paper through an AI checker. If you used an AI note-taking app as part of your IEP and then use some of those notes in your work, that could easily be flagged. If that's happening right now. And I don't think it's a problem yet, but I feel like the more kids are doing it, the more it might be.
I think that's why we need the working group to get the plan put together.
Yeah, no, I don't think it needs.
So
to be
many
here. This
pieces.
was just, so this is section J.
Wait, I'm sorry, I just saw, in section J, we also have a G, which we've been.
That
Oh,
is
that's
G.
where your
This is
section is
G.
going. Sorry, I didn't write that. Okay.
G. So this is the thing that we just talked about that I'm now emailing to Paulette on saying it would be building wide versus
Do you
department.
mind copying that to me, please, too?
I'm talking the whole committee.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, I'll remember that I had a typo or something.
Okay. Yeah, seem good? Yeah. Right. Now we have another committee to do another, or working group, sorry.
Yes, working group.
If once they get going, maybe like there'd be a time when we could go in and like interact, but I just would love to have there not be like we have with one of our other committees right now where they went off. And
Yeah.
come back together
Yeah.
and we're over here and they're over here.
Yeah, I think that would be important, because I think you're right, Lisa, that we may have to go back and revisit our policy again based on.
Well, based on the evolution of technology alone, I think you're gonna have to look at it again, because there's things that 3 months, I'm like 6 months, there's things that it's probably going to be doing, you know, in fall that it's not doing now.
Right, the ramifications for this is, it will probably get checked with them.
It's gonna be ongoing.
Yeah.
And this week's change to the AI policy is, and this week's change is, like, okay.
Like leave it to the kids, like student government day, one of the students was like, I have a class where it's just, if I use AI, I have to take a screenshot of the prompt.
Hmm.
And then what I get from that prompt, I have to take a screenshot of, and it just gets attached to the end of my work.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's simple.
Right.
Platform agnostic, tells them not to cheat, lets the teacher see how it was used, and seemed
Mhm.
just simple and fair. Not like
Yeah,
it
and
has to
they
be the
can't
policy, but you know what I mean? It's like,
Copy it either.
right, or if they did, then the teacher will be like, actually, I can see that you literally cut and paste from here.
Mhm.
Let's try this again.
Right.
Anyway,
That seems nice and straightforward.
yeah, okay, I emailed that.
Okay, so we're on to the body camera policy. I'm wondering if what makes most sense is for us still to do what we said we were gonna do, or me to do it. And just, wait, you said you put something together. I just
You
lost
have
it.
it. It's the one with the
Oh,
XX.
I saw it, I just lost it. I saw it in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's, there it is, okay.
I think she probably is this.
So Paulette, did you do anything to this besides just formatting it?
It's just formatting it.
Okay, so this is essentially what we've already seen.
This is that memo
Yeah.
that Seth gave us.
I've had two of these, are they?
They're all-
they're just this-
Jenny, you just got an extra.
Yeah, we all did.
I just got-
I'll actually take it. Thank you.
Here, pass it down.
That's like, you have that, that's extra.
Oh, this is extra.
Yep.
Extra.
Think, to me, having this match the language and, you know, the memo pretty closely actually makes sense. And I wonder about, just for our purposes, adding somewhere the intention of, you know, a fact sheet on the policy will be distributed to all families at the beginning of the school year. And it will be like in the student handbooks for, you know what I mean? Just like, I think that's the one piece that wasn't
Mhm.
their concern. Right? Because I think that was sort of the intention. But just having that in the policy that people will be.
Would you put that like in line 10? Because you're talking about.
I hadn't thought that far ahead, Patty.
Well,
Yeah, I
I
couldn't
think
tell that
that's
line
kind of
10.
limited there because you're talking about relationship with respect.
Right. So maybe just like after line 10. Um,
I think what you just said, a fact sheet will be developed and shared with families and students.
could it be part of their registration paperwork? Or like.
That might be tricky.
No, I didn't want to specify that. I
That
was
might be
curious how to get it to them. Fact sheet on this
Putting it in the
policy
link to the
will
handbook
be
is-
shared annually with
Well,
families
so,
and included in student handbooks. And I think I want it to be like a plain language, like not legal language.
Mhm.
Where are you?
the other thing that Wonderly says is,
Line 10.
I most of this is just, you're gonna turn on the cameras if there is a legal situation going on. And that the cameras won't be turned on in routine visits, look to classrooms and all those sorts of things. So I guess I wonder. I mean, I can see the need to notify, I guess I just want, I think, there's so many things that go into school. Why would we want to have notify specifically about this particular practice when I would, and then how do we notify? I just worry about it being,
So,
why focus on this as
Calling
something?
attention to.
well, we notify on
unnecessary.
every other recording. Like we
Right,
have
but how do
recording
you-
notice for choir, for sports, for like the overall recording policy. We have a new notification for the evaluations that teachers are doing. So to do everything but this feels wrong to me.
How do we know? I see, I don't know how.
So you're saying that is already the precedent.
How do we notify about all those other requirements?
But like I think I have kids in the high school. I got a thing in Parents Square. Like, you know how we talked in the teacher evaluations, like you're going to use videos for that pilot.
Sometimes
one of
posted in
my-
the classroom, like parents are notified, but also notifying about this policy is not deviating from us notifying about bullying policy, about notifying about some of the other, I think this would be included in
Okay,
that instead of just like, here's this special one. We're gonna include it in all of that so that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that they understand.
sure. Well,
Because
that
this
makes
is unique, but it's also new and it's important, so it would be bundled
great. Yeah, that's
with
all.
the rest of that.
If it's bundled with the rest and it's
Yeah.
perfect, these are all the things you need to know about our school, that makes total sense
Yep.
to me.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
was-
and I think it could be
And that goes out annually.
Yeah. So this is what I'm suggesting after line 10, just in the paragraph. It just says a plain language fact sheet on this policy will be shared annually with families and included in student handbooks. Does that seem fair?
Sounds good. Because they should have those too.
I can.
Thank you.
I can email it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, is there other stuff in
I
there?
don't know if, do we want to make it its own bullet though? I feel like it could get lost there, but.
I was gonna make this separate, so I was looking at
Separate
the,
paragraph.
like, there's 2 paragraphs and they make a new 3rd paragraph, it's just that.
Yeah, I like that, just to.
So it'd be after line 10, new paragraph, and just that sentence. I can email that too.
No, it's,
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I did.
Mhm.
I did.
And then
We
the
all talk too much.
the
We need to-
label,
oh.
the lettering, it's the next thing I'm kind of looking at. I don't know when to be.
I feel like, I don't know what the label would be, because it feels like it's more administrative than kids.
Oh, for the code?
Yeah.
Mhm.
We can't just leave that, but.
Yeah, no, yes. It's a little X-rated. I also, in the first, in line 4, I think we need to define SRO before we use the term SRO.
Oh, good point.
So, like, can we just say,
Is it school resource or safety resource? I always forget.
School,
I thought.
Okay.
school resource officer.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
we should write school resource officer and then put SRO in parentheses, and then we can use SRO for the rest of the.
I propose KLGA
Oh,
Really, how come?
because KLG is relations with police authorities.
perfect.
KLGA could be,
So is that a dash A or just an
no,
A?
KLGA.
Okay.
And
I
then
feel like I'm learning a new language right now.
I'm sorry, I lost you. Where are we?
I'm just thinking
Just
about
the code for the
changing it from
policy.
triple X so that we don't look like we belong on some back road somewhere. To KLGA, because that would fit under relations with police authorities, and we could title it something like
Police body camera use?
Police Body Camera Use in Schools.
Yep,
Sure.
perfect.
Beautiful.
Line
Okay.
4. So,
It's KL.
Hold on.
It's no policy.
Oh, that's a good idea.
is there anything else I should do? I'm just hitting reply all to the other emails, so it'll just be in the same thread, Paulette. That's
Okay.
okay.
I think this is good. I mean, I had thought we might consolidate it a little, but I don't know that we need to. I mean, in some ways that might be more confusing if we have a memo that includes other things that you don't see in the policy, so.
They've got it written with their lingo and I don't want to funky things that we don't know what we're taking out.
Did we spell out, speaking of acronyms, did we spell out what BWC is? I don't think we did.
Oops.
So first reference line 11 to BWC is body worn camera.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
You didn't spell that out either. So that's line 11.
We also already need our legal references on here, yes. So RSA 105, do. The other one,
RSA 578 to
oh,
line 120.
Yep.
Also 167.
yeah, there's.
I wondered about this, but that could be like maybe just an infraction policies. If people did have a question about this, like would they contact the PD or would they contact the school?
We could contact the school resource officer, I think.
Fair.
Talk to them.
Okay, no, I just was thinking in case people have. Because this has come up and I think
Because
it
there
came
was,
up.
there was that whole section in what they shared last time with all the training, so they've all been trained. And I
Yeah.
think this, the having the school resource officer speak to it is the natural
Right.
next step.
Yeah, you go to the first source and then if they're not satisfied, then they can go.
Up the chain. Okay.
Maybe we're in-
No, those are two things.
Was there only one RSA?
There's another one, it's on line 120, Paulette.
Right, I'm just trying to get the official names. So 570 is interception and disclosure.
570-A
Got
2,
Okay, and what was the second one?
105D 2.
There's also 105D, but I don't know if that's.
Maybe
different.
D is better because it's more general, more broad.
Yeah. I also need one comma on line 6. After the word reactive, I would think. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Okay. I feel like I'm shocked. It's only 9:30. How's that
This is a
possible?
good feeling.
How's that happen?
The sunshine is helping us.
We're gonna take a long time.
We are solar
I
powered.
really thought my phone was wrong for a second. It's the time. Okay. All right, so use the social networking websites. Right there, I think we need a new title. I can't believe this one was not, hasn't been reviewed by the NHSBA since 2009.
Mhm.
I'm sad it doesn't mention Friendster.
I mean, I think they just forgot about it.
Flickr, what? How, wow, Flickr.
Right?
Yeah, I think that's being discontinued.
Flickr.
Your baby photos on there
Yeah.
of our graduating high school senior.
So,
It's very current.
I think we should start by calling it social media rather than social networking websites.
Mm-hmm.
What do we think about that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Employee use of social media? But what are others' thoughts on?
So I have two minds about this.
Okay.
One, which is like the intention is good to be like, we don't want like a educator, like, you know, friending one of their students.
Right.
And then interacting, like that has, you know, all
Yeah.
sorts of reasons that shouldn't happen. But at the same time, staff very routinely are photographing kids and posting on social, like, look at the CTE kids who are out doing this really cool thing, or like Fine Arts Night is all over social, trying to promote the senior show. So like, this as written seems to prohibit the activities we like, where they're highlighting great stuff that's happening in the schools.
Right.
And so I'm wondering about if we can just separate, because we clearly don't want it to be like, you know, a student and somebody who works for us are interacting
Right.
on
You know
social
what?
media in a way that's like,
Don't we already have that in our like appropriate relations between students and teachers?
we do.
GVE.
So
So
I wonder if this is this needs to be more about like not, less about involvement between kids and students, but more about appropriate representation of the district.
But I agree with you, but I feel like if that's the case, then this doesn't seem to serve that.
No,
Well,
it doesn't.
I think, I think there's a distinction that has to be made though, because if you're looking at the numbered policy,
Mhm.
line 7 almost needs to be shall not post blah, blah, blah on any private non-school sanctioned website. Because we've got a lot of
What does that mean in your mind though? Like, what's a private non-school sanction? What's an example?
personal, like if I had, which I don't, but if I had my own website,
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to be putting, because you've got the school websites where you've got PTOs putting, which that should be okay. But the way it's written here, shall not post any on any website.
But also, it's not websites where they're posting. To
Exactly,
be
that's,
totally clear.
website is the first problem.
So what you're saying, so like, I'm on like, I follow all the different high school like Instagram stuff.
But it's the high school Instagram. It's not,
No, it's not. Like, kids set it up, teachers set it up. It's not by the high school. And I
And
guess,
also,
but what's the
I feel like
title of it?
people who post on like there's like professional growth or development groups where people might share ideas
True.
that they have in this classroom.
like, there's like almost all the sports, like the SS Clippers, I believe, is the one that's actually run by somebody who works, you know, in an official capacity, maybe. But then there's PHS Art, like PHS, like.
but it's not, you know, Jane Smith's website, and Jane Smith happens to be a teacher at, and she's just putting like,
But I guess what I'm saying is like anybody can set that up. Do you know what I mean? So I guess it's like, how are we defining
School sponsored.
private versus public? Like, do they have to get permission to set up and I mean, I'm just wanting to not make it too burdensome, but also like not shut down. Because the whole high school pretty much runs on Instagram
right.
in terms of all their clubs and extracurriculars. And so many of those are coaches set it up or a teacher. Sometimes it's a kid. And
Well,
who
because
joins it is
what
being moderated.
I'm thinking of is at the beginning of the year, we have families decide and fill out paperwork about whether or not their student should be photographed.
Mhm.
And if a teacher takes a photograph of the class doing XYZ thing, and they post it to their own, maybe it's their own professional organization, and that student's picture, like who's now responsible for that image getting out there? This is what I'm thinking about.
No, you're right.
It's if it's something that goes through and has a school name, like there's you're gonna need to have different considerations for
Yeah.
what's being shared, how it's being shared. That's what I'm thinking about. I mean,
Mhm.
aside from the whole
Mhm.
you shouldn't be interacting and that's covered under the other policy, this I think speaks more to putting school things out there into the, again, it's like AI, putting it out there into the public domain where anybody can access it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I guess I'm just wondering about how we word it so that it's enabling the stuff that works.
That we do want.
And
The
doesn't shut
advertising and
down.
not the, right.
So just to throw something out there,
Make a
So-
plan.
because, so this is not a required by law. It's just a recommended. New Hampshire School Board hasn't touched it since 2009. Maybe some of these components, since this is specifically a staff-related one, because it's coded by G, I wonder if some of the things that you're looking at, I think they are already covered under employee-student relationship. But if
Mhm.
there are certain components of this that you like, maybe the most suitable would be to add it to your internet access for staff, your GBEF policy. As far as, because just because you have it on the books now, it doesn't mean you have to keep it.
That's true.
Right.
As far as where it's not required.
Because it's very updated.
Yeah.
And it would help in later on processes when you're looking at updating older policies. that maybe if it could be consolidated, which the internet access for staff is required by law.
That makes sense. If I was also just thinking like teachers do on their private pages share, and I guess if it's from a sanctioned district account and then they're sharing it, that's not a big deal. Because it's already been vetted somewhere.
Right. But you also don't want, like, somebody gets an advanced copy of the budget. Man, take a picture, put it up, like, can you imagine? I
I
mean,
imagine nobody reading it.
well, but it'll be that one
I
time.
know. Right, yeah, because I just think for some of these like accounts, like I wouldn't even know on Instagram who is running these things.
Right.
Like, I assume it's somebody who is allowed to post, but
And honestly, GBEF hasn't been looked at by school board association since 2010,
Oh, no.
and ours is 2019. But if that's something that we wanted to do is fold the two in together, maybe we put that to the next meeting. And we can figure out how to do a merge.
Right, and just the only reason this GBEBD is on the agenda is because it is one of our oldest policies. It's 2015.
Well, it's got
Yeah.
Flickr in there, for heaven's sakes. It is old.
what's quite great is I feel like even in 2015, Flickr was old.
It probably was, I know. Well, it looks like we took off MySpace out of this one. Whereas
Gee,
it
that's-
was great, still in the,
Sample policy.
yeah, exactly. So
MySpace.
that was a big update in 2015. All right, well, I think that makes sense.
So when you say what makes sense, are we looking at to not containing this policy, but taking the elements and putting it into the two other policies?
Just the one.
Yes, but I think we would do that in future
Next-
meeting.
next
rather
time,
than
yeah.
Do it now.
I mean, I think that whenever we can, that, yeah, because this policy is challenging in that it's trying to prevent the inappropriate relationships between staff and students. But as you said, Lisa, we also don't want to
Mhm.
put barriers in place. We don't want any unwanted consequences for trying to be putting in protection.
Totally.
So that makes sense to me.
Because that's to accomplish the thing.
Okay, so we're gonna
Many things.
move that on
This
to
is
the future
Better day.
page.
So what I'll do is when you look at this again, I'll pull the employee student relations and the internet access one.
Great.
Perfect. That would be great.
Yes. Let
Let me make sure it's all there. Sure. Thank you.
Video, audio surveillance, and is that what we're looking at now?
Yep.
Yeah.
So for me, this one seemed pretty straightforward, but I'm curious, weren't we expecting an updated? I thought there had been a legal change that was prompting our looking at this, or is that not?
I can tell you what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's solved maybe.
Oh,
So there was in the Parents' Bill of Rights that passed last year, a very stringent prohibition on all forms of video recording.
right.
Which appeared to go so far as to stop you from recording sports or
Graduation.
graduation.
Right.
So they are passing a fix to that I suspect will pass in the next month to
Okay.
clarify when video is permitted. So I don't think, I mean, I can't promise that something in here wouldn't suddenly need to be tweaked.
Because it's,
Um,
yeah, letter C in here, lists
correct.
all those
Mhm.
activities.
Yeah. So
So
that
we
was the
would-
issue was to
yeah.
see the Parents' Bill of Rights basically did say you can't record clubs or drama or any of that stuff. And now they're trying to fix that mess by passing a new,
Okay, so we're not gonna, we don't need to wait for that necessarily, because we're assuming it's gonna include all that.
Well, but do we want to wait for the exact wording?
well, this would have
That's
two
what I was
readings,
concerned.
right?
Yeah,
So I feel like by the time we get to second reading, we can always kick back second reading if the other fix hasn't passed. Does that feel fair?
that's true, or if it does and it includes something different.
But as far as I can tell, there's pretty universal acknowledgement that the way that they did it was a mistake. Like they didn't intend the language to ban these things and then it did. I did have one question. This is like so arcane, it probably doesn't need to go in policy. But the language in this policy actually doesn't match the language that gets put in IEPs, and I wonder if we wanted to. For the special ed
okay.
part, and. Because there are some prohibitions or like parameters around how recordings can be used.
Because this hasn't been updated since 21, you might.
And I'm not saying like, I wouldn't want to necessarily say that what I have here is the exact language, but I'm just thinking that, because I do have a student who uses assistive tech with recording, so there's like a legal thing that says, like, you can't share it like outside of school, like it's only for educational purposes and it needs to be just for, like, you can't maintain it, I think, after the current school year.
So
And
but
there's-
is that captured in
So I'm looking
how
at
such
B.
recordings will be maintained in accordance with? Is that gonna be?
Well, that's what
there?
I'm asking you is just, do you want, so is in accordance with FERPA? I don't know, but I was just wondering if, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find the actual legal. Yeah, there's a thing that's, yeah, and maybe you don't need this. I mean, the IEP language is that legal guardians agree that audio recordings are property of the district and only for individual students. You see, there's all this other like legal
Mhm.
stuff, but that goes into the IEP whenever the student is
Mhm.
initiating the recording. Maybe that doesn't need to be here, but I was just.
And I
wondering
would
about that.
leave, if they're referencing laws, I would just leave it as a reference to the law, because that way if the law changes, we don't have to go back
Fair.
into the policy and try to
Okay.
figure out what did we wordsmith.
Okay, fair.
Okay, that's good.
Cool.
So another one.
The only one about this one is we don't have ECA yet, so am I just striking that
Mhm.
language?
Yeah.
Okay, that's why it's highlighted in yellow, huh?
Yeah.
Good idea.
And I'm curious why the title eliminates buses. Is that because we have that other policy that,
Just did the bus policy separately.
right, so it's just separated now? Okay. I had some other thought on this one, but I can't remember what it was.
Which,
Still on the video surveillance.
Oh.
Oh, I guess I was just gonna ask you, is this something that students are informed about? I know there's like signs posted, but
On the buses,
sort of understood, no, in general in the buildings.
there's signs all up
They
there.
know.
Students know, oh yeah.
They know, so we don't need to announce that in the.
They also know where the cameras are not.
They're very good at that.
Okay.
Oh, well, I can do this around this corner because nobody's gonna see me.
All right.
This is a required.
oh, yeah, daily physical activity. We did get an email on this as well.
Yeah, we did.
Um,
It was from a parent because the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends against withholding recess for any reason.
Yep.
Stephen Parsons, I think, emailed us
I don't know who,
the other day.
you know who that is? Not that matters.
parents, maybe.
What they were suggesting was very similar to what was written here.
Yeah.
And I know we had Dan come in to talk to the special education components, and I'm wondering where we landed.
I was scheduled to have a meeting with, Lee to talk about this and we had to reschedule it, so. So that conversation didn't happen.
Okay.
Did we do this with him in the room or
I
in conference?
Rather. Have them in,
Cause I'd rather have him be able to voice it.
Right.
And have it come back to the board and then he's up there saying that we didn't hear any of the
The things that we
things.
spoke to.
Well, we have another policy committee coming up. Can we invite him to that one?
I don't know if he can come during the day. We could certainly invite him and see if he can even zoom in.
Zooming in
Right.
is totally an option. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great if you could do it.
Okay, so we'll push this to next time.
I didn't think we were even gonna get to it today, so ooh,
Can I get Ruby though, Pep?
of course.
I love you, Ruby.
I saw your email earlier, is that what you?
No, I have
Oh.
a question about crowdfunding. Which is, I would love to see the copy of the procedures for approving crowdfunding requests that are being used. Just anecdotally, I've been hearing all year challenges from students and from staff, particularly at the high school, on things not being approved. And I just would like to know what the current process is for that.
Oh, that's future.
Crowdfunding. Yeah, like we're not dealing with policy today, but like as part of that discussion, it would help me to know what are we doing with it? Because the policy on its own doesn't seem particularly to like prohibit it. But the practice seems to be potentially.
Well, I think it seems to me that there's misunderstanding about the practice too, that people are interpreting it differently in different places.
That may be true. And I know when Nathan, because he was business administrator when we changed this, and he had some really specific
Very,
concerns
yes.
around not having awareness in his office about who's asking for money and where it's going and wanting to tighten that down so that there's clear accounting, which
Right.
is super valid. But for example, like the senior class was not able to do their class fundraiser this fall. And like several of the clubs have not been able to run fundraisers for their clubs.
Mm.
Like Fine Arts Night is this week and they're not being allowed to collect donations to help pay for
So you
the
wanna
food
see
at
the
Fine Arts
procedure.
Night. So I just want to know what is the procedure, because if it's just that there's been a decision made by administrators that this is how we want to do it, knowing that would make it easier for us to know what to do with the policy or not. Does that make sense?
My understanding was that it was only limiting teachers and not students. That's when we
Well-
first developed that policy.
It was, I was like concerned that it was going to shut down a lot of fundraising.
And it did.
And it did. And some of that may have been shut down legitimately because maybe Nathan had some valid points about people getting a little bit wild with their use of the school logo to do.
Individual GoFundMe.
No, I totally got that.
And then
But
crowdfunding is required by law, so then we had to put something on the books.
100%. But I think that my understanding was that maybe the district would have identified this is the crowdfunding platform that we're going to allow.
We did.
And then this is the process that people would use to get approved to post. Or maybe, I don't know. Like,
So we did identify donors choose, I think, as the
Mhm.
only.
we did,
only-
but I'm being told it's not being allowed.
That was
And then
the
separately, we used to use
Okay.
things like Chatter Up, Rally Up, like those different, like cash collecting
Like
things.
Flickr, these are the things that long existed for years.
I have to have a confession here. I feel like I must have been in all these things, websites, social media things. I don't know any of this.
I had to try to teach my high schooler
It's
how to
okay, you
use
don't
these
even need to.
I know Facebook, that's about it.
That means we're old.
So we could have the procedures for approval next, when we discuss that, so yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
because we don't want people to be just randomly collecting cash that goes all over the place.
No,
But I don't think the intention was to say, tell the senior class you can't raise the money you need for prom. You know, or like a club advisor who's saying, like, I have a club that needs to do this activity that requires us to raise money is different from an individual teacher being like, I'd like glue sticks. And here's my,
Right.
Venmo.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Where are we going with the home policy? What exactly, what's the,
Good question.
what's our, do we have a process in mind for developing this?
Well, didn't the three of us talk about meeting over the summer to try to work on it?
We did.
Okay.
And we talked about
Um,
waiting for our new high
so-
school principal to come on board too.
Right. Right now, we have met with all the principals.
Yep.
As far as I understand. and ask them the same list of questions. And so I think our next step will be to assimilate all that information and see and start to draft a policy.
And we have the survey from the
From the-
teachers that was included with
Right.
this task. So, yeah, there's a lot to, synthesize.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like that, well, like a lot of other ones where we did, these are some global, like we want it to be consistent in these ways, and then there have to be some sort of procedures that are set up based on that. So
Okay. So.
Yeah.
we're gonna meet.
Open for coffee whenever I'm in town.
Let's go.
Okay. That's good. And then, I was gonna ask about, this- oh, have we seen this spring update?
Not yet.
No. Okay. It's gonna be
The
summer.
conference still doing whatever, so
Yeah.
it would be late spring,
Okay, well.
June 19th or
Not
something.
all, it's nice not to have a million things, but. Okay,
So our next meeting's June 2nd. I know there was a little bit of hesitation about talking about the summer. Like, do we
oh,
have
right, whether.
additional meeting dates or?
Well, I think one thing we talked about sort of casually was maybe we don't have official meeting dates, but we try to meet in sort of independently and develop the summer policy. That was one possibility, but I'm also not opposed to having meeting dates in the summer.
I'm trying to find that week when we're all here, if we can.
What's the next school board meeting after the June one?
Nine,
July
July.
14th
And then after that,
is going to be August 11th.
so maybe we try to put one in before the 11th. Because July, I mean, it gets ghost townish around.
Yeah.
There's a school board meeting on August 11th. Is there one on the 18th?
There is not.
I don't know why I have it on my calendar.
Just one a month during the summer.
And there's not one on the 20th. Why? All of a sudden it's repeating.
And we're trying also to go into the summer with a calendar for the upcoming school year. I know that's very aspirational, but if people felt wild and crazy and wanted to do that right now.
You mean
For the committee meetings, because we're trying to get a master schedule of the committee.
with agenda items, you mean?
No, just like what are the meeting dates for the policy committee for the next school year?
So what
If
do
we
we,
want to wait till the next
first
policy
and
meeting.
third?
Usually,
Tuesday, maybe we just set it up first and third and
does that still work for people?
I have this new, because of the behavioral health committee that I just joined. There's another meeting that's Tuesday mornings that I need to be able to attend, but I think it's every second Tuesday maybe. To look that up.
Okay.
So that might be the only,
Tuesdays are great for me because this time's perfect for me, right?
this, I have to say that 9 AM is a lot harder for me than 10 AM. If there's any possibility we could shift back to 10, that would be really great. But that doesn't work for people. No.
9:30?
I have a commitment at Exeter at 11:30. So I could do 9, yeah,
Yeah, maybe. not.
9:30 to 11. If we're done at 11, I'm fine.
Okay, how's that for you two? Is that weird?
no,
Your timing?
9:30 is fine.
Okay,
I mean, I'm fine with that.
that would help if we could do.
First and third Tuesdays at 9:30. Starting up again, well, we can pick a random date in July, I guess, next time, and then we can
Well,
start back up.
We could say now, September for school year.
Yeah, start September.
Accommodations Lisa's request. as far
So
as
maybe
that.
September 1st is, there's school.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
So starting September 1st, it's first
First and
and third.
15th, first.
And then we just
and
have to look through and see how many of those are Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
all the other things.
Yeah.
But I think that works.
Good, we can look at that list next time.
And
We're gonna
then-
win a prize,
So-
guys, for being the only committee with a calendar.
So the policy
Wait,
committee-
teaching and learning will have one too. Come on.
And do we want to just throw out there one date in the summer?
So
The spring update will be coming.
Oh,
my preference, Paulette, would be to tether it to one of the days when we have a school board meeting, because I
Okay.
think there's more likelihood that people will be in town,
Okay.
like me.
Okay.
Can we do the 9th, or is that gonna be too soon to like do that work?
Well, we'll have a meeting on the 2nd already. So we already are scheduled for June 2nd.
Yeah, I'll be in town the 9th.
We have the safety and wellbeing committee meeting on.
We have the ninth, yep, we've
Okay.
already got a meeting.
The following week I'm away.
Well, if you want to tether it to the school board meeting, do we say July 14th?
I wouldn't hate that.
That's not gonna work, we're on admin retreat,
Okay.
so then maybe we do August 11th.
I'm not here in the 11th.
Done. Maybe we can, so are there any weeks of the summer? I don't know, I guess.
I like that idea.
I would love to start the school year if we could with some of that, at least the stuff that's really routine, just done. Because I think the school board agendas just get really wild when you've got like 15 policies
Well, do you want to do it later on the 9th?
later on the
Like
night.
later in the day?
Patty, what do you think? Back to June.
I can't, because I'm prepping for.
Well, wait a minute,
for
that's-
reception.
Also, we're already meeting the 2nd, so that's kind of silly. That's so close.
Yeah, so I'm back the week of the 22nd and June 23rd.
Not here,
Not here, okay. June
This is
30th.
what we don't
June
need in
30th.
not here, I've got conferences.
Okay,
Yeah.
July 7th.
July 7th, so.
Ooh,
July 7th is fine for me.
I can do the 7th.
I think it's possible for me too. Wow,
July 7th, 9:30 done.
remarkable.
Got it.
And I would
30 to 11.
greatly love not having multiple meetings in the summer, but
Well, that's
You
it,
need to
that's the
progress.
meeting.
Yeah, as long as we end at 11, I'm good.
okay. And as a hypothetical for the three of us, if we try to noodle on homework before that,
Yes.
so that it could be, at least we can
I agree.
sync up and come on.
We could even have a draft policy.
Yeah. And then the only other thing I emailed you guys, which was a copy of the Conval student school board rep policy, which indicates in RSA what things those students are allowed to do, and one of them is help us develop policies. How would people feel about giving the dress code policy to student government in high school as a project?
They want to come up with a draft and that would, obviously the board has to.
Yeah.
And I suspect like a lot of times, then it's true that they would handle it responsibly and come up with some good.
Well, we would still come to us for review and everything, and just to let them do what do they propose?
Yeah.
Do you want to, but before you do that
I'm
though,
not doing anything, I just want what people thought it.
if you do that, I think it would be helpful to provide some guidelines, like why do we have, what's the purpose of this policy? Why do we have a dress code within framework of schools, so that when they go to create it, they understand that looking for a policy that creates these goals.
Yeah.
And I think in that policy, usually there's something about maintains school environment. So typically there's something about not distracting or not, I don't know.
That's the language we want to get rid of.
As a former science teacher, I'm all about safety. I'm always looking at,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
it's the clothes that can get stuck on the doorknob. It's the open-toed shoes.
But you also, and you don't want thin logos, you don't want. I see.
What are our gang colors in Portsmouth?
I hope not.
Well, but no, I mean.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
things that
yeah.
are suggest.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I feel like I can wait till the fall. I wouldn't want to give them an assignment like the last week of school.
Well, that's what I mean, so we don't feel like we need to have that in place by beginning of the year, not that,
Typically, we're not going to anyway.
right?
And I don't think, I mean, it's outdated, but
But it would be a good task for them to work on, and if you've got the school board student rep sitting on both,
Right.
that conversation and then at the board meetings, it
Yeah.
would be a good sort
and
of
they can present.
combo,
Yeah.
right?
100%. I think that would be great. So let's work.
Yeah.
I'll forward you all, what Brian just sent me regarding crowdfunding.
Oh,
So that
great.
you can
Thank you.
review
Yeah,
it.
that's good. Is he watching? He's like, I have.
No, I emailed him while you
Oh,
guys
thank
were
you.
talking.
Yeah, I think,
I do have a question related to another committee, but I figure, well.
There's
okay, yeah,
no,
Okay.
perfect, well adjourned. Good work, team.